welcome back to the RE/MAX Real Estate Insight Show. Have you noticed that real estate has moved online? Well, what I mean is that so much information about homes, listings, how to buy and sell has moved online, and really what we mean is social media platforms. Social media has become a preferred and often effective way to market real estate listings. The largest audiences for just about anybody in marketing these days can be found on platforms like Facebook, in Instagram, and YouTube. So what does this mean for you when you're selling your home? And what are the benefits your agents can and should bring for you when using social to market your home? Joining me is Wes Brooks. He is an associate broker with RE/MAX Encore in Clarkston to talk more about this. And in addition to being a real estate agent, Wes is also a professional photographer and videographer. So he really comes with a nice resume to talk with us about all of this. So welcome to the show, Wes.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
Oh, it's our pleasure to have you. So I guess let's just start off with the fact that not only are you a realtor, but you're also, like I said, a professional photographer, professional videographer, kind of a unique combination. I don't see that every day. Does the photography kind of come in with being a realtor? Was this something that predated your real estate license?
Well, what happened was back in the 70s, I got interested in photography. And by the late 70s, I was doing weddings and Little League photos and motocross races and all kinds of things like that.
That sounds like fun.
So, yeah, it was just something I enjoyed. And then I ended up taking it professionally.
And it's worked out quite well for you as the real estate industry has certainly progressed. So let's move to the real estate side of your career. And let's say that you're my listing agent, or you're coming out to be, we're interviewing you to be the agent that sells our homes. Undoubtedly, I'm sure clients must ask you, how are you going to market my home? And what's your answer to that these days?
Well, there's a lot of avenues now. When I first get there, I like to look at the house over to see if it's going to need any staging. Once I do have all my marketing materials together, on top of being on the MLS, I also have it on YouTube and all kinds of social media, such as Facebook and things like that. I actually use Facebook differently than just putting it on my own personal page.
Okay.
I have 9 Facebook pages.
Oh my goodness, that's a lot to manage.
Yeah, and what I do is when I get a new listing, say it's in a certain type of property, like a condo or something like that, or a subdivision, I'll create a Facebook page for that marketplace, for condos or for a subdivision. And by doing that, based on keywords, I can market that, and anybody that's interested in that neighborhood or that type of property will find my marketing. And with that, hopefully I can get new followers and new clients.
Well, I mean, and you're really strategically, like I said, you're understanding the keywords, and you're doing this every day, so you kind of know what resonates with folks and how they search, because that's part of it. Knowing how somebody searches and the words they put in, and then, like you said, with all these different Facebook pages, you're able to kind of hone in on that to get the right audience seeing what you've got out there.
Right. I've got pages just for investment properties.
Okay.
And so it's definitely, I've got some pages that are just for horse farms.
Oh, that's really a unique niche. Yeah. Well, very cool. Well, and I think photographs are just so critical. And there's so much of what drives, whether it's social or marketing a real estate listing these days. I mean, you go back to years ago, it truly was just the curb shot. The exterior photo of the home that people made the decision whether they were going to view it or not. Now, it's all of the photos that are.
Yeah, back when real estate in the early days, so to speak, you'd have a book of properties. And so you were kind of limited on the number of photos you could use and even the type of photos.
Right.
But now when I go in to photograph a house, I'm shooting all, high quality Nikon cameras and processing every single photo individually for the best color, pulling details out of shadows, things like that. So there's a big difference between a professional photograph and somebody using their iPhone.
Well, that was one of the things I was going to ask you later, but we'll scoop that right now since we're on the top. I mean, I do think that everybody having a phone makes everybody think they're a photographer because we're so used to just capturing every moment and posting it out there. But there really is a difference, and a lot of agents don't have the photographer eye, if you will.
Right. And, There are some agents that will hire me to do their photos, and that's great. And I'm not trying to compete or pull their clients from them.
Right.
But if I didn't have a background in professional photography, I would be hiring it out. There's a lot of photographers out there that are reasonably priced that agents can utilize. And, in the housing market, advertising, marketing those properties is critical. Here we are in Motor City, Detroit.
Right.
And, the auto industry, they use professional photos, they use professional videos. A house is a much bigger ticket item than a car.
And it certainly has a much more of an emotional pull to
That's
it.
right. That's right. So why shouldn't we be raising the bar to the professional standards of every industry using photography and video on their marketing?
So when you come to the door and somebody, maybe the potential sellers, they've cleaned their home. I mean, they've done all the quote unquote right things. They've decluttered, they've cleaned, it's kind of sparkly and shiny, but you walk in and you've got a slightly different eye. I mean, clean is great, but maybe it's not camera ready.
Right.
So what are some things you would tell clients if you do need to make some suggested changes?
Well, I do some of the staging myself. I've, kind of learned into that staging area of the business. But I also have somebody that I use, Robin Alley of Robin Sets the Stage. She comes out and does staging for me on occasion as well. The one thing you have to be careful about doing the staging or suggesting the staging, some homeowners really feel their house is beautiful already. And
just the way it is.
Yeah, and to suggest anything different or any changes, you don't want to insult them.
So you got to read the room a little bit.
That's right.
Well, we're talking with Wes Brooks. He is an associate broker with RE/MAX Encore in Clarkson about how to market a home today, blending the use of photography, some social media thrown in. We're going to switch topics next and come back and talk about drone and aerial photography. Stay tuned for more of the RE/MAX Real Estate Insight Show coming up here on 760 WJR. You are back with the RE/MAX Real Estate Insight Show. We're talking about marketing a home today, and that involves quality professional photography. It involves social media because the first impression of your home, it's really being made online, and photos have never been so critical in marketing your home. I'm your host, Jeanette Schneider. Back with me is Wes Brooks. He's an associate broker with RE/MAX Encore in Clarkston. So we've been talking about professional photography, things of that nature. Want to just switch gears a little bit because something we're certainly starting to see more frequently as it comes to marketing a home is aerial or drone photography, videography. This is something you're familiar with. How did you get involved with this aspect?
Well, I started off many, many years ago as a airplane pilot doing photos and things for estates, larger properties. So I would fly a Cessna 172 and kind of hang out the window and do the photos that way. It wasn't as drastic as it sounds.
I was going to say, because I don't know that I'd be comfortable with that.
But we did that with the airplane. And then I got asked to host a TV show called Finding New Neighbors. So in the process of doing the TV show, I met a drone pilot, had him on the show. And with my photography background and my flying background, I just thought, this is something I've got to do.
It's like the perfect marriage wasn't it? Yeah.
So, I don't know, it's been 12 years maybe, something like that I've been flying drones. And I've gone through the whole process of when you didn't need a license, now you do need a license and things like that. And so I started getting in the drone photography and incorporating that in my videos as I'm making videos on all my listings.
Now, you mentioned that you originally kind of started with estates, larger properties, which is, I think, where a lot of drone and aerial photography came into the real estate industry, is those large acreage, and you could really kind of showcase, the property.
Right.
Is it something that you think helps properties sell quicker? And if I have a home in let's say a 400 home subdivision, it's not large acreage, does drone or aerial still play a role?
Absolutely. I use drones on every listing I can. Now, there are some restrictions, whether you can't fly too close to an airport. There are restrictions we have to follow. And if there's too many trees or wires, you don't want to get involved in that. But any other property, I use it even on vacant lands, small properties, large properties. I think anytime you add another exposure, another angle to show the footprint of that property and how it relates to the neighboring properties, I think it's advantageous.
And people really can't get enough of photos. I mean, I don't
Right.
think anybody's not going to look at them. I mean,
Yeah, and it's a view that you wouldn't normally ever see.
Right.
I mean, we don't hover around the houses, so so when you can show an image of a property that is unique to them, such as an aerial photo, that is something that brings attention to the listing. And if it's going to bring attention, it's going to bring buyers.
well, and that's that's absolutely true. And you mentioned that you need a license. In the early days
Yes.
with droning, you did not.
Right.
And that kind of brings up, I'm all for it because I do think that it does create what you just said, a different way to look at properties, unique, distinctive way to do that. But I'll admit, I'm a little leery of a bunch of drones flying over my head, dropping packages on me and stuff like that. So you need a license now. What's the protocol? I mean, what did you have to do to get a license?
There's two different ways of doing it. Being I'm already a licensed pilot, I had to take a test. And the odd thing is, if you're already a pilot, you have to pass that test with a score of 100%.
No error.
You can't make a single mistake. And if you make a mistake, you got to wait 2 weeks before you can take the test again.
Okay.
So, but I did pass first try. But if if all you want to do is drone stuff, you have to take a class, you have to take a test, you have to understand the aviation rules, and you have to pass a score of 70% or greater.
Okay. So, well, congratulations on passing
Thank you.
the first time. So we're talking, a lot of things we're talking about: professional photography, doing social media, setting up multiple, in your case, Facebook accounts, now you add the aerial and the drone photography. None of this comes necessarily with no cost, out of your pocket. There is money involved. So we've got kind of two different listening audiences. Obviously, we have, those that are looking to sell a home, and we have other real estate agents that are listening.
Right.
When it comes to having the cost that's involved, if somebody says, well, I don't know about all of that, is there something else you can do to market? Is it worth the money you spend on this to how you market homes today?
Absolutely. We used to pay for ads in those real estate books, and I used to pay for multiple pages, and it was pretty regular. And those were some heavy costs involved. All we've done now is we've shifted our marketing dollars. So instead of putting it into the magazines, we're putting it on the social media, and we're doing other things. Now, while in the photography element, I have tens of thousands of dollars invested between my Nikons, my video cameras, jib cranes, all that stuff, and the drones. But agents can leave that up to other professional photographers. Relatively inexpensively, you can hire a photographer to do that stuff.
And in your opinion, they should be hiring a professional.
Absolutely. To show up at a house to list it and have a realtor pull out an iPhone or some other smartphone to do photos. Just my belief, the seller should say, you know what, maybe this isn't the job for you. We're going to find somebody else. You need to have professionals.
Which I think goes to the point of, I think it's easy for a seller, because let's face it, most sellers don't sell homes every year.
Right.
There's a 7 to 10 year span, and a lot changes in the marketing of a home, especially nowadays in that time span. So let's say they're interviewing a few agents. I think it's easy for it to sound as if all agents are created equal. I'm going to market it online. I'm going to market it, on social. And it could maybe sound like everybody's offering the same services, but they really aren't. And to your point, photography is going to be one of those differentiation points.
Right. A matter of fact, in the marketing and your education, as you mentioned, I'm an associate broker. Not all agents are brokers or associate brokers. That takes a different education to get to that level. And beyond that, by the time you start doing the marketing, and I believe that marketing should be absolutely as professional as you possibly can make it. If you're dropping the ball on that, and I will say, the photos that are being used by using cell phones and things like this, buyers see that. And what those do is they create low offers. So that does create an actual impact in the wallets of the sellers.
And Most sellers I know want to get top dollar
That's
for
right.
their
That's
for
right.
their home. Now, you mentioned some education that goes along, associate broker being one of the things. You also possess the negotiation
Right.
expert
Yep.
designation, because all your marketing, when it pays off, you have an offer or offers plural.
Right.
So, and negotiating is a big part of a real estate transaction, and the thing that most buyers and sellers really don't enjoy. I mean, there are some folks that do, but most people don't think they're good at it,
Right.
and they really want their agent to negotiate. How does a designation like that help your clients?
Well, the designation, Certified Negotiating Expert, known as a CNE, what that does is it helps me understand the process of proper negotiating. There are some specific techniques used in negotiating. I don't want to manipulate anybody, but it's a process of understanding personalities, how they work, and what kind of personalities, how you have to work with each personality. And so I can't say too much on that, but I will say getting that designation for any agent is really an important designation. And I've got a lot of designations from E-Pro to ABR and all these other designations, but CNE is definitely an important designation.
Well, as we sit here, we're kind of coming to the closing end of the year here, and we look at 2020 and business planning and things of that nature. Anything coming on the horizon that you have your eye on as far as maybe some new marketing things you're going to do next year, or some things that you're going to tweak on what you're doing right now?
Well, it's interesting. I've got a video that I use for my marketing where by the time I go to meet a seller for the first time, I typically will email them a specific video, and I'm redoing that video.
Okay.
I'm completely redoing it. I'm be in my studio. I've got a studio in my office, and we're going to be just redoing the whole thing.
Well, thanks to Wes Brooks, an associate broker from RE/MAX Encore in Clarkston, for chatting with us about the importance of professional photography, how he's using drone and aerial photography and social media to market your home. Coming up next, we're going to be talking home warranties, so stay tuned for more of the RE/MAX Real Estate Insight Show coming up here on 760 WJR.